So, Mike, first, thank you so much for joining us on the Zoom call today. We're, of course, doing a small piece on the town meeting, and most of our Updates episode is going to be about town meeting. But first, I have to ask you about the catch that you had. The flag is coming down, and you have the most athletic spin move and one-handed grab I've ever seen.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up. It's something have I created a GIF of myself to send around to friends and family? Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to say yes or no. Literally the only athletic thing I've ever done in my entire life.
It was a good time for athleticism to kick in.
But I do actually, I have to take this time to issue a public apology to Newton Thompson, one of the warrant committee members who was sitting directly to the left of me. And before town meeting started, he looked back and noticed the flag blowing in the wind. And he said, "Mike, I think that's going to fall over." I said, "Newton, that's crazy. It's not going to fall over. Get it together." And of course, as I'm reading the budget article, it fell over. The muscle memory just comes in, and I had to grab it. I thought about my younger brother who's a Marine. What would he do in this situation?
Right.
Probably be in camouflage and have many firearms around him. But other than that, it was exactly the same thing.
Right, exactly. I love the plant at the end of it too. You just planted it and you were ready to hold that the whole way through.
Yeah, I mean, a little flair for the dramatic, but our first historic outdoor town meeting, I figured it needed a little something extra.
It needed it for sure. So, Mike, obviously you are the warrant committee chairman, and the warrant committee is who puts together essentially all the articles for town meeting. You guys go through them, you write your reviews, your thoughts, and you give, as the warrant committee, a suggestion to town, and they vote up or down based on what the warrant committee suggests. So
effectively the framework, the warrant articles itself, they are it's the Board of Selectmen's warrant. So the warrant committee, while we discuss, review, certainly we sometimes have suggestions on the language. The drafting of the warrant is done either by town council, citizens, department heads, or the Board of Selectmen. And what is presented is, again, it's the Board of Selectmen's warrant, but the warrant committee by town charter, we have all of the duties of a finance committee under state law. And so that's to review the town finances and to provide recommendations to town meeting, and also to review the warrant articles and to provide recommendations. So our process, we usually look at it as kind of a two-track. It's the budget, even though the budget is a warrant article, that's really the main crux of what our charter obligations are, and then the warrant articles. So with respect to the budget, we have department heads and other experts and stakeholders in, particularly with larger requests, or if a department like, say, water and sewer is looking for money for to paint the water tower, which is actually something that's going to come up next year. We'd have them in and talk about what that's going to look like, what they need, and ask a number of questions to try to figure out what we're going to recommend. And then we'll vote on the budget in total, and we'll vote on each article, whether or not to recommend approval or dismissal. And then the next steps from there are you have a warrant hearing at a Board of Selectmen meeting 30 days before town meeting, where we go through what we voted on thus far, and then we go to town meeting and read the articles, recommend approval or dismissal, and then town meeting votes whether or not to approve or dismiss that article.
Obviously, all of that in consideration, COVID-19 comes in and changes the game completely for everybody. What were some of the considerations that the Warrant Committee had to take in order to react to COVID-19?
We were going to have a very difficult budget season before that even started. We were looking at a pretty significant deficit, somewhere upwards of 2 million. We were looking to, we had a number of projects coming up in the near future. We were also as Warrant Committee, Board of Selectmen, and Town Administration were working and had been working for the last year or so to shore up the town's capital needs by asking all the departments to come together and work on a 5-year plan. And what we were going to do was to ask the town to vote for the creation of a capital stabilization fund, which would have mirrored the town's municipal stabilization fund that we voted on, I think, 2 years ago. And we were going to ask for an amount to fund that. We hadn't set on the amount yet. It was probably going to be somewhere around $1 million. But the idea there was, we have all these capital needs, and every year we kind of kick the can down the road to plug the holes in the budget. We want to stop doing that. That was going to be a big ask already, and given the deficit and various structural issues with the town budget. I mean, we're a town that is almost exclusively our budget is reliant on the tax base. We don't have a large commercial tax base. It's all residential, or mostly residential. So that was really our big focus leading up to what was supposed to be a late April town meeting, and then COVID hits, and the budget situation goes from bad to worse. Also, just the uncertainty, the lack of clear direction from the state as far as what the state might do to supplement towns' budgets, what kind of federal or state stimulus money we might be getting, and the uncertainty with local receipts and what we're going to take in. So we're met with that. We're met with, are we even going to be able to have town meeting in April? Spoiler alert, we didn't.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to make any decisions right away. Anything that was irreversible. So we started having Zoom meetings, because obviously we couldn't meet in person. And the first thing on the docket every meeting was Town Administrator Christine Treeweiler. Usually comes to our meetings. She was at every one of our meetings during this time, and it was, Christine, where are we? What do we need to know? And it was never a rosy picture to do. We needed to first figure out when town meeting was going to be. Then we needed to vote on a balanced budget for pre-COVID. So we needed to get to a spot where we had what would have been the balanced budget had town meeting happened when it was supposed to happen. Then we needed to figure out what the post-COVID budget shortfall was in order to get a post-COVID balanced budget to present to when town meeting eventually would happen. And to do that, we needed to come up with some sort of reasonable projection of what our reduced income would be, and what, if anything, we might get from the state or federal government. And that all of that was kind of happening at the same time. I mean, it sounds sort of formulaic when I lay it out like that, but it certainly wasn't. It was, everything happening at once, and all the thanks and admiration in the world goes out to the town administrator, Christine Treeweiler, and her team. They really, and there was no map for this. There's no instruction manual. They really shepherded us through a process that was so much unknown and so much that we needed to do. Thankfully we did get to a town meeting, but even that date, I think we had 2 or 3 different dates until we finally ended up having it. Looking down at my, I put it out of mind now. I have to look down at my my warrant committee manual. June 27th, we ended up having it, but that was because the state legislature, they passed a law allowing municipalities to push off their town meeting a certain amount of time, but even that wasn't abundantly clear at first. So we knew that we could push it off till the end of June, but there was also this idea that you could have the town moderator every 30 days kick it off another 30 days. And there was talk as to whether or not we wanted to do that. I think the Board of Selectmen made the right decision that, let's use the time we have, but we want to get this town meeting done before the summer, before people, start going away. Because what would happen if you kicked off town meeting is you'd have to have what's called a 1/12 budget. So you're budgeting month to month until you have that town meeting, which is, I just don't think that's the best situation for the town. And the Board of Selectmen, made that decision pretty clear.
So one of the things that I think you remarked on was you said it sounds formulaic. It sounds like this was a process that was laid out. But one of the things I think was most important here is that there was no formula. There was no, like you said, everything was happening at once. And not only that, but there was no reason or no path to follow. Everyone in town, was really reacting to things as they were happening. I think as we look back now, it's a testament to how well it was handled. Because as we look back, we say, well, yeah, this seemed like the obvious choice, but it wasn't. This was formulated by a group of people who sat down and said, this is what we're going to do, reacting to COVID-19. I have to commend the Warrant Committee, the town administrator, and we're going to be talking to Scott McDermott as well. The path that you guys laid out for the town to follow was incredible. So congratulations on everybody.
Thank you for that. And I mean, again, all the credit in the world to Christine and her team, her deputy Nick Milano and her finance team, Georgia, Vaughn, Joy, and Andrew, just really went above and beyond. But it's a good point you make, that it took so many people to come together and to kind of walk through this scenario that had never happened before. There wasn't a template for it, and one good example of that is, I talked a little bit that we had to have a projection as far as what we thought the reduction, and some people in the state legislature were saying cities and towns should expect a 20% reduction. Some said much less than that, and we had to come up with a number basically out of whole cloth, and that took the Board of Selectmen, the full Warrant Committee, the full school committee, Scott McDermott was involved in that, the town administration. We had a couple of meetings, but one in particular with all of us kind of going back and forth as to what the ramifications might be, how, particularly with the school committee, how that's going to look at the school budget. And the schools obviously is a huge part of the town budget. And I think obviously we were all affected by what happened, but no more than the schools who had to on a dime change to distance learning. And the superintendent and his team are dealing with the academic aspects of that, and at the same time they're meeting with us every week, sometimes more than every week, dealing with the budgetary aspects. And so we all came together and decided to budget a 10% reduction, because we thought that was the high enough cushion, but not quite to the 20%, because if we got to the 20%, you're talking layoffs.
Right.
And we didn't want to make any irreversible decisions if it turned out, we do get more stimulus money than we may think right now, or something shakes out a different way. We wanted to be able to have the ability to adapt and to kind of change with the changing circumstances. But the board of selectmen, this town is very lucky to have Mike and Gus. They always work really hard. They put into overdrive during this time, and I think made a lot of hard but correct decisions for the town. And Jeff Marsden and Michael LaFrancesca with the and the school committee, they had to make a lot of difficult and really for them gut-wrenching decisions, because they're talking about teachers and kids, and they worked with us hand in hand throughout the entire process. And we frankly would not have gone to town meeting without that partnership. And it is I just go back to the fact that we knew it was going to be tough in February. We knew it was going to be tough last fall, but we didn't know it was going to be as tough as it ended up being.
Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you about is the fall town meeting. There is going to be, I don't know if that's actually set just yet, but the idea of a fall town meeting has been brought up a few times. Can you tell me about what the fall town meeting might be, what people could expect from that?
Yes. So there, at least as of now, there's definitely going to be a fall town meeting. Now that could absolutely change tomorrow. I think likely sometime in October, I think is the ideal, hopefully early October. And the main purpose of that town meeting is to vote on everything that was supposed to be on the docket for annual town meeting. Prior to COVID, there were, I think, 41 articles, and that had the potential to grow to about 46 at last I was told. Then when we decided to do the June town meeting, the decision was made to cut it down to only budget articles, because we one thing I didn't mention is that when the legislature allowed towns to have the later town meeting, they also allowed towns to lower the quorum. So our quorum for town meeting is usually 250. We were allowed to lower that to 10%. So we could have had town meeting with just 25 people. In total, I think 144 people ended up showing up. But still below the quorum. So, thankfully we were able to do that. But since we were lowering the quorum so much, we didn't want to have anything more than we absolutely needed to run the town. Because there are some issues that we want more folks to weigh in on. One of them being the capital budget stabilization fund we talked about. I don't know if that will necessarily be on fall town meeting, but I do expect that to come up in one of the future town meetings. There are a number of zoning articles that were supposed to be on the docket. One of them was actually to allow food trucks in Medfield, which would probably be a pretty popular article, but that got pushed, so that will probably be on fall town meeting. There were a couple of energy committee related articles, and some water and sewer, I think, are going to have. I mentioned that they'll be asking for an article for repainting the water tower. That had initially come up a couple of years ago. They were able to kick the can down the road a little bit. I think we can probably expect that to be on fall town meeting. Basically everything that we were supposed to vote on, plus anything else that people can think of, which they will. I think there are a couple of citizens petitions that were supposed to be on this warrant that will be taken up in the fall. But the special town meeting by its name, not something you should expect to happen every year, but I will note that as long as I've been chair, we've had an annual town meeting and a special town meeting. So I'd really like that trend to end, but certainly not this year, maybe next year.
For a small town, it certainly gets quite busy.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, this will be a part of our updates episode, and I just want to thank you so much for all your work that you do, not only for the chairman of the Warrant Committee, but also for the board of directors for Medfield TV. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Which I might get yelled at by the town administrator, but board of directors of Medfield TV is my favorite town obligation. Not just because it meets much less frequently than the Warrant Committee, but that's certainly part of it. But and thank Brett for you and your staff and all you do for the town. Getting the selectmen meetings on the internet, on TV, and being able to have that outdoor town meeting and still have that be online and on TV, so the folks at home could see it. That it's a great service to the town. So thank you for that, and thanks for today, and look forward to speaking with you soon.